everyone, I'm Mind, and last year Ninjago introduced a new mech style called the EVO Mechs. There was 2 released last year in 2022 and 1 more released this year, 2023. However, another new thing for 2023 is they updated the mechs from the LEGO Marvel theme. LEGO Marvel has been getting mechs for years, but now in 2023 they updated the style of the mechs to now use the same joints that the Ninjago mechs do. So these went from being 2 very different things to being 2 very similar things. So I thought it'd be interesting to make a video comparing the Ninjago mechs to the new Marvel mechs, see how similar they actually are, like are they the same thing, and if not, which one's better. When the pictures of the Marvel mechs first came out, my initial impression was like, oh, these are just the EVO mechs but in Marvel. That's actually really exciting because I love the Ninjago EVO mechs, but now having them in hand, they're very, very different. So let's take a look up a little bit closer so I can show you what I mean. Starting at the feet of the mech, there's 2 very distinctly different styles here. The Ninjago mechs are very simplistic, using only a few parts, and they use like a little snot build where anti-studs come out the back of the feet, as opposed to the Marvel mechs, which are built with studs on top. So as such, the anti-studs are on the bottom of the feet, and rather than just using like one of the dark gray mixel ball joint connector pieces, instead they use a mini ball joint and a bar, which does better incorporate the ball joint like into the actual foot build. You can see this is the case with all the mechs. Ninjago uses the plate with the ball coming off of it, while the Marvel mech uses the bar, and that does actually make a pretty big difference. From my experience at least, the movement on the Marvel mechs is a lot more restricted than the movement on the Ninjago mechs. Compare that with Ninjago and this is like a lot more significant, and that's definitely the case with both foot styles on the Marvel mechs, where side to side is alright, but forward and back's a little more limited, and there's just a much wider range on the Ninjago ones. The design of the legs is done very similarly, just building off the EVO joints. However, it definitely seems like Marvel is more creative with the way they build off of it, because at the very least with the 3 Ninjago mechs we've gotten so far, there's not a huge difference with the way their legs are done, just usually a combination of the new EVO mech armor pieces, as well as the Nexonite shields, and then you can see Zane's mech does use a slightly different piece, however it's a very similar design for all 3. Lloyd's does mix it up a little bit by having like a little booster out the back of the legs, but they're very simple on the whole. Comparing that to the 3 Marvel mechs, each one of these is done pretty differently. You can see both Rocket and Hulk do use the Nexonite shield pieces at the bottom similar to the Ninjago mechs, however the upper part of the leg's pretty different in each of them, with like Hulk's upper leg trying to represent his shorts, Thanos just having this round black design that really like covers up the joints, and then Rocket just having a very small little black piece that really exposes the joints right there. So I do actually like the variety and types of build here. However, I will say the EVO armor pieces do look good. So as cool as it is to see the variety here, I actually think the Ninjago mechs look better just in terms of looks, even if they do use less pieces. Now coming to the way the legs actually connect to the body, this is easily my least favorite part of the Marvel mechs. Posability is just so limited here, which really restricts the mech's overall posability. The legs can't move back hardly at all. Like, it's really restricted right here. If you want to move it back, it has to be spun out like this. Same thing in forward movement, right? There's only a very limited range of motion. Only so far you can get that. As such, if you're trying to pose this like super dynamically, the leg's just gonna pop off. And I really don't like that. I feel like that goes against what these toys are supposed to be. So that's pretty disappointing in my opinion. Of course, that was on the Thanos mech, but the Hulk mech is exactly the same way. The forward range of motion I think is a little bit better here, but not by much. Rocket's really the only one who's got like a great range of motion on the legs. However, he's got these super thin feet, and the super thin feet really restrict movement. So on the whole, none of these have the like best posability when it comes to the legs. Compare that to the Ninjago mechs, and the range of motion on the legs is fantastic. You can basically turn them 360 degrees if you wanted to, kick them forward, push them back. The only thing they can't do is go in, which makes sense. You don't really want legs to go in. They feel firm and stable, and are a ton of fun to pose, so Ninjago definitely wins in this category too. And that's actually the case with all 3 mechs. Lloyd's and Kai's can't go in as much, but even still it can do like what, like an 85 degree angle. It doesn't get the perfect 90 like Zane does, but honestly it doesn't need it. This still feels super dynamic and again is stable. Unlike the Marvel mechs, trying to pose this, I can't see this popping off. It's super easy to get like cool and unique poses out of these guys thanks to those legs. There's just a ton of expression and personality in them. Comparing that to the Marvel mechs, I mean you can still get some pretty good poses out of them, but your options are a lot more limited here. So yeah, in terms of leg posability, Ninjago definitely wins in that category. Now a place where Marvel's gonna win is actually body articulation, because the upper section of their body can swivel, which is something the Ninjago mechs can't do. The Ninjago mechs are stuck with the character always facing forward, but thanks to the Marvel mechs' bodies being able to spin, you can get more personality out of them that way, which I do think is a good thing. Something else I like in the Marvel mechs that the Ninjago mechs don't have is the custom printed part on the chest of each one. You can see Hulk has like this radiation symbol, Rocket has like this orange and silver mechanical design, and Thanos has this golden armor design, so it's really cool to get exclusive printed parts. parts. Compare that to Ninjago and they all just have the same symbol in the center, which personally I think looks cool. It's nice to have consistency between them, but obviously getting 6 different printed parts would be way cooler than just having the one, so I definitely would not be opposed to all the Ninja getting a different one, and I do like the way that Marvel includes those. However, in terms of the build of the cockpit itself, I much prefer the way Ninjago does it. First off, I just think the EVO cockpit piece looks a lot cooler. It's a lot bulkier and more armored, it's got a really nice shape to it. And then opening it up, the interior where the minifigure fits is actually brick built, so this can allow each mech to look drastically different just based off the way they build this cockpit area. Because you can see like here, Lloyd's mech has wide shoulders, while Kai's mech is a lot thinner at the body. So despite using that same basic cockpit piece, it gives the mechs both a very unique shape, and looking at the interior of Kai's mech, yeah, it looks drastically different. Then comparing that to Zane's is definitely the bulkiest of them all, with these golden pieces on the side that work really well with the cockpit. Compare that to the Marvel mechs, and here you just have this green panel that opens up, and Hulk sits in this little gray chamber. Then you have this blue panel that opens up, and then Thanos sits in this chamber. I do appreciate them adding these gold pieces to the top of Thanos' mech, just to give it a slightly different shape, but even still, it's very similar to the others. And then, yeah, once again, Rocket just has an orange version of that chamber, and then there's the gray area for him to sit inside. So, like, while this cockpit connection system is a good part, I prefer the creativity that you could get from the Ninjago mechs, because each of them are just so much more different. Now, where the Marvel mechs do have a little bit more room for creativity is the back of the mechs. You can see Rocket's here as, like, a double jetpack, and then he also has a tail coming out the back, which is very goofy. I really like that. The Hulk and Thanos' are both very similar to each other, just with a few parts different, and I find both of them kind of boring. They're not bad by any means, but yeah, definitely not the most interesting designs. Compare that to the backs of the Ninjago mechs, and they're all pretty basic, so I guess Marvel does win in, like, the back department. However, I much prefer the front of the mechs to look unique than the back of the mechs. So yeah, in terms of the torso area overall, I definitely much prefer the Ninjago ones. Now, in terms of the arms of the mech, for Ninjago, all of them are done in a pretty similar style. Just sort of brick-built armor at the top of the arm. Kai's mech is definitely the most basic in terms of the arms, and just with some clips at the end to hold accessories. But you can see on one side he has, like, a cannon with a stud shooter. But you can see Zane, like, has a hand on a mini ball joint which holds a katana, so that gives you a pretty dynamic range of motion on that arm. And then the other side also has clips to hold an accessory, but then he also has this giant ice blade, which does look super cool and makes for a very fun weapon. Lloyd has a pretty basic arm design, however he does have a really nice printed part, and then he has clips at the end, where again he can hold a sword. His mech comes with a really long sword, and again, because the hands are on their own ball joints, it gives you a much bigger range of motion than the Kai mech has. Comparing that to the Marvel mechs, I will say the Marvel mechs definitely have more unique arms, however I would also say that they're probably worse. Thanos goes with his muscular design that matches the color of his skin, and in one arm he has the Infinity Gauntlet on a ball joint. Unfortunately, not a huge range of motion there, and it is at sort of an awkward angle, but it does still look pretty cool. And then on the other side, the upper end's very similar, though now he holds this giant blade in his hand. However, unlike Lloyd and Zane, he doesn't have a separate ball joint for that hand, it's just connected to the arm, so that really limits posability, because you can't get, like, dynamic poses with that sword, because you're limited by how the arm itself can articulate, which again is more limited than the arms are on the Ninjago mechs. It's definitely not as bad as the motion on the legs, but still feels a little bit limiting. Hulk does a very similar thing where he has, like, this muscular design, and then a hand at the very end. The hand looks quite cool and I think fits him well. However, again, I wish that was connected on a mini ball joint rather than being connected to the arm, just because that severely limits posability. But he does have a clip in there to hold an accessory, and then the other arm is basically exactly the same, except it is holding an accessory. But yeah, you can see how limited that is. You can't even pull that in. Really wish there was just a bigger range of motion there. Because comparing that to, like, Lloyd's mech, number one, his arm can move in more, but then the hand itself can move in, so there's just more ways to play with and display this. And then Rocket uses a very basic hand design with these new finger pieces introduced for these sets. This is done pretty similarly to the Thanos hand, however it doesn't even have a clip to hold on to anything. But the other arm is definitely the coolest of any of these, with the 6-stud shooter on the side, as well as a clip to hold an accessory, and I genuinely really like this. Because Rocket is also thinner than the other two, he does have a wider range of motion. Again, I wish the hand was on a separate mini ball joint like on the Ninjago mechs, because that would have given him an even bigger range of motion, but even still, I think this one's a lot better than the other two. But now that we've taken a look at the individual aspects of each of these mechs, I want to talk about a few other broader things. For one is the style of the mechs. Despite using the same joint pieces, I think the Ninjago and Marvel mechs are going for two very different things. The Ninjago mechs are definitely designed to be easier to build and simpler to build. However, I would still say the Marvel mechs have the similar design, because the Ninjago mechs are designed to be mechs. They look very mechanical and robotic, and they're themed around the characters, but they look like a vehicle piloted by the character. Comparing that to the Marvel mechs more feel like giant bodies for the characters. Like the Hulk mech is basically just a big Hulk body. The Thanos mech is just a bigger version of Thanos himself. While the Ninjago mechs are not doing that. The Zane mech isn't a big Zane, it's a robot with like a saw blade on it. Zane himself can't do that, but like the Hulk and the Thanos and the Rocket, these are just bigger versions of the characters themselves. themselves. Lots of aspects of the Marvel mechs feel very cartoony, which is something that I do like. However, I think the Ninjago mechs are a much better combination of like cartoony while also being realistic. I don't know, the Marvel mechs just really don't do it for me. The rocket mech's definitely my favorite of the bunch, but on the whole, I just have to say I am disappointed by the Marvel mechs, because I was excited. I love the Ninjago EVO mechs, and I was expecting a lot from these, because I mean, it's done in a very similar style, but no, it feels like it really doesn't have what it needs to be a success. The other thing is the price of these mechs. Now, Zane's mech was sold on its own for $10, Lloyd's in a double pack with a villain mech for $20. I didn't take a look at the villain mech in this video because it's done in a slightly different style, but it is very similar. So as such, the Ninjago mechs are valued at about $10 a piece, while the Marvel mechs cost $15 a piece. Now, to me at least, that feels wrong. Number one, the Ninjago mechs are bigger. You could see with the mechs standing side by side, the Ninjago mechs have a significantly bigger footprint. But also, you have to remember, like, Zane's mech came with a villain, Lloyd's mech came with a villain. The Marvel mechs just come with one minifigure. Now, the minifigures in the Marvel mechs are exclusive, and that is not the case for the Ninjago ones. Well, I guess Lloyd is, but the others aren't. However, the price just feels way too high. The posability on the Marvel mechs is pretty disappointing too. I know I mentioned it earlier, but I just want to reiterate. Like, Thanos and Hulk are really restricted in a few places, and Rocket has a super big range, but his feet are so thin that it's hard for him to balance. While all three of the Ninjago mechs, despite each having their own identity, are pretty perfect in terms of posability. So overall, which do I prefer? Ninjago mechs 100%. I feel like each of them is more unique, has a much better identity, represents the concept of a mech better, is a much better value, and is just a better build too. And honestly, straight up, I don't think I'd recommend the Marvel mechs at all. Like, obviously, if you care about the minifigures, pick them up because the minifigures are pretty cool. But if you're just looking for a cool mech build and you don't have all the Ninjago ones yet, go for the Ninjago ones instead. They are significantly better. I will say, of all the Marvel mechs, the only one I really like is Rocket. I do think that is a pretty fun build. And while it's not on the level of the Ninjago EVO mechs, I still like it for what it is. But yeah, I just find the posability disappointing. I'm not a fan of the art style in the mechs just in general. The thin feet on Rocket look awkward, and the big feet on Hulk and Thanos look ugly to me. The design of the legs on them I think is alright, however I just much prefer the EVO armor pieces on the Ninjago mechs. I do like the printed parts, but that's not much, and I think that two-piece cockpit build is just really boring. It just really restricts the creativity in these mechs, comparing that to like all the variety you get in the Ninjago mechs. How the cockpits on each of those are just so different. Yeah, unless you really care about the minifigures, I don't recommend you pick up the Marvel mechs. I will probably be taking these apart after this video and be using the extra pieces for future like custom EVO mech videos, because yeah, I pretty much only bought them to make this video, and now that I've made it, I kind of regret spending so much money on them. But this is a video where I am very curious to hear your thoughts, because I have strong feelings about this, but I'm very curious how you guys feel about the Marvel mechs. Do you think they're better or worse than Ninjago mechs? Do you think they're better or worse than the old Marvel mech style? I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comments. I will say I do think these are better than the old Marvel mechs, however that's not saying much because I still don't love these for what they are. So yeah, of course, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. In case you guys missed it, I made a bunch of custom EVO mechs just like these based off the mechs we saw in Ninjago Crystallized. I'll put a card in the top right corner of that if you haven't seen that yet. But as for this video, I think that's about all I have to say. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, give the video a like. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!